How's it going, everybody? Rye here today, and I am here bringing you guys, on the eve of the NHL season, my NHL Season Predictions. I sat down and thought about, what kind of video could I make that you guys would want to watch, and everyone's going to be happy, and everybody's going to agree with me, and nobody's going to be upset in the comments section. So I decided to make an NHL Predictions video, and I actually had a lot of fun putting this one together, guys. Going through all the teams, it just kind of gets better, well-rounded, understanding of what the league looks like. And honestly, I don't consider myself an expert, and I don't consider myself to know every player on every team. I know some of you guys out there, especially with your own teams, you guys know every player's like height and weight, their how many points they have in their career, and things like that little bit of nitty gritty. So I'm going to do my best to do you guys justice. For those teams that I'm high on, let's hope I'm right, and those teams I'm low on, I want to be wrong. I don't want to be like, dunking on your team and being right about it. It's never fun for any fan base, and as a fan of the Buffalo Sabres for years, I kind of know how that goes. It's been a long time, but it's finally exciting again. So here we go. Without further ado, let's start where my home team plays, in the Atlantic Division, and I'm going to be bringing up the point totals according to DraftKings. This is not a betting video, don't get me wrong. I just use it as a baseline for us to start a discussion about how we think each team is going to do this year, and we'll go from the top projected team to the bottom projected team by total points by DraftKings in each division. So here in the Atlantic Division, we will go ahead and start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their points total, according to DraftKings, as of today, which is the recording of this video, is October 9th. They have 105.5 points, and I'm probably going to say they're going to finish with over that. I think this is another good year for the Leafs. I mean, we'll take injuries. We won't take those into account unless they've already happened. This is a good team, top to bottom. I think there's a lot of depth in the forward core. The defensive core, it's kind of questionable to me. There's some good pieces. I like Timothy Liljegren a lot. Morgan Rielly, obviously pretty good. Brody, I like McCabe as a former Sabre. John Klingberg, I don't know if he's the solution to the problem that the Leafs have been having defensively. Ilya Samsonov had a good season last year. 233 goal against average and a 919 save percentage. I think, guys, this is another good year for the Leafs. I'm going to take the over, like I said. I think they do end up winning the Atlantic Division as well. I don't really see any other team that was on their level, the Bruins, the Lightning, and the teams in the past couple of years that have been contending with the Panthers as well. I don't think any of them passed the Leafs, and I think the Leafs got just as good, if not better, than they were last year. I think Tyler Bertuzzi for a whole year is going to be good for them, and I think it's going to be a fun year. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Leafs do. Hopefully they lose when they come to Buffalo, because I'll probably be there, and I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of you Leafs fans there in the building as well. We'll move on now to the Boston Bruins, and this one I think DraftKings has completely wrong. They've got 1-01.5 as their over-under for the season. I'm going to take that under any day of the week. Boston lost both Krejci and Bergeron. Top two centers and two guys that were pillars of this franchise have now retired completely, right? It's not like Krejci's gone, it's just Bergeron. And we saw the Bruins take a step back when that happened as well. Bergeron is elite, and, Krejci was great. Krejci left for a little bit, and they did take a small step back, and now that they're both gone for good, that center core is just not good enough for me. I know, I'm looking at Cap Friendly right now and their depth chart. Pavel Zacha as your number one center, Charlie Coyle as your number two. Now, I know they still have Pastrnak and Marchand, and they have James Van Riemsdyk now. Lucic is back. I don't know what that's going to do for you. I really don't see this team as more than a mid to low 90s. As far as the points are concerned. We'll see if Ullmark and Swayman can keep up their tremendous performances from last year. It was absolutely insane, but losing both Bergeron and Krejci, I think, is going to take a massive toll. Charlie McAvoy is still elite, and I think he's still going to be great. Matt Grzelcyk, he's another great defense. This defensive core is great. I don't see... I don't see any reason why they can't be in contention for the playoffs, but to have them ranked as the second best team in the Atlantic, and, to have a 101.5 as your over-under for your points, I think that's a bit ambitious. I think the Bruins, I'm going to say they probably still do make the playoffs, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher, and it's not going to be, I don't think they'll be close to 100 points this year, so I'm taking that under of 101.5. Next, we've got the Florida Panthers, the representatives from the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup last year. Their over-under is at 99.5. And guys, I think I'm going to take that under. Or over. We're taking that over. Sorry. The Panthers, I think, last year they were a fantastic team with their advanced analytics, and maybe if Bobrovsky can continue to play like that, goaltending was not necessarily too big of an issue for them last year. They ranked around middle of the pack, so if they can get that up, or at least more consistently throughout the year, I think the Panthers are going to be a great team. I think they're going to be another top 10 team in the NHL. That's why I'm taking this over. I think they do end up getting the over 100 points this year. I'm saying they're in the more low 100s. It is a tough division. Teams are going to take points off each other a ton, but I really think the Atlantic is probably, I'm going to say it, I think they're the best division in the league as far as top to bottom talent. Maybe it doesn't have the elite talents of like the Pacific Division, but I mean the talent here. But Florida's an exciting team this year. I know Montour and Ekblad are out. Montour shouldn't miss too much time to start the season here. Ekblad, we'll see how long it takes him. Sam Bennett is coming back. He's just day to day right now. They still have Barkov. Evan Rodriguez is a good player for them. Luotsarainen, we'll see what he does. I think he might be playing on the power play. I'm not sure what their power play is going to look like, but I can tell you this is going to be a good Panthers team again. They're always in it, and I think last year was a little bit of a aberration that they weren't as good as maybe the numbers say, and I think they do progress to the mean, and they end up taking the second spot in the Atlantic. The next team that we're going to talk about here is the Tampa Bay Lightning. DraftKings has them as the fourth best team at 93.5 is their over-under. When I originally looked at the stats and stuff for this video, they were at 95.5, so clearly they're kind of lowering the expectations, especially with the Vasilevsky injury. I did have them under 95.5. Now I'm going to say they're over 93.5. I really think they're going to be right in that range. I just threw a number out there. I said 95 is about the points I'd expect for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think they're going to be a good team. They've still got Stamkos, Point, Kucherov, Hedman, Sergachev. They still have a really good team. And by the way, Vasilevsky is coming back. I think it's a great team. Cirelli's still good. Brandon Hagel's still good. I think the big thing, though, that drops them out of the top three in the division for me is the fact that they lost their depth, something they've been known for, right? Like, the Alex Killorns of the world were just in their bottom nine. It was super easy for them to just shuffle those lines, and I think their depth is really going to be tested. Now, I know they still have Jeannot, they still have Nick Paul. Connor Sheary doesn't really do it for me, especially with this roster construction. I think they're still going to be a good team because they have that elite talent, because they've got Vasilevsky coming back. I think it's going to be, another good season for the Lightning, but I do see them a little bit on the decline. I don't see them declining nearly as much as the Bruins, who I think it was a perfect storm for the Bruins last year. The Lightning are who we think they are. I think they're a great team. I don't think they're going to be at the top of the Atlantic, because I think the Atlantic is there's some shuffling going on in the Atlantic. So Tampa Bay, I think you're going to have a good season. I think you're still going to make the playoffs. I don't think you're getting a divisional spot, though. And that leads us to the next team, and you guys may call me biased on this one, but it's the Buffalo Sabres. 92.5 points is their over-under. They finished with 91, I believe, last year, and that's with having, no quality goaltending for the entire year. I'm taking the over on this one for the Sabres, and I think they're well over this 92.5. I think they're going to snag that final divisional spot. I think it's going to be very fun. To me, we'll see that my standings coming up here once we cover every team, but I think the Buffalo Sabres are going to be a very, very exciting team, and it's going to be in that jam, right? I already talked about it. I think the Leafs are the best team. I think it's then the Panthers, and then it's pretty much take your pick with the next, I think, 4 teams. The Bruins, Lightning, Sabres, Senators. I think that is a talented group, and it's going to be crazy. February, March, and then early April, that is going to be a crazy time. But for the Sabres, let's talk about them a little bit. I know I try not to talk about them too much because I am a fan, but I think Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, the elite talent they have, hopefully will stay healthy, won't be dealing with injuries down the stretch, and they'll be able to keep up their pace. And Devin Levi really is the name to watch here. I know the Sabres went out and acquired Clifton, and they also acquired Eric Johnson. Those guys will make a difference on the blue line, and hopefully the Sabres' defensive woes will get a little bit better. But I think ultimately where the big changes and why I have the Sabres getting 7 more points this year than they did last year is just down to Devin Levi and goaltending. I think goaltending will be more consistent. I think it'll be better. I don't see much changing in the way of offensive talent. Maybe a small step back there, but a large jump forward defensively, I think, is where the Sabres team is going to really shock a lot of people. The Sabres have been talked about, 2 years ago, and then last year everyone's like, oh wow, the Sabres are actually on the rise. So they're not really sneaking up on people. But for people that are doubting and hating, I think it'll be a really rude awakening for those people, because I think the Sabres are here to stay, and I think they're going to be in contention for a playoff spot. They've talked about it in the locker room. I know, like, Kyle Oposo and Dahlin just signed his extension today, and he's like, win with us or watch us win. So I think they know what the expectations are, and I think they're ready to do it. Obviously, everybody's going out there to win, but I think this Sabres team has the makeup now defensively to hang in there in some of these tough later season games, and they have the offense to hang with pretty much anybody in the league right now. So I think the Sabres do end up snagging that final divisional spot, and let's hope, because I'd like to go to a playoff game for the first time in over a decade. Next, we'll go with the Ottawa Senators, that final team that I had mentioned here in this group of what I consider playoff contenders from this division. I know it's crazy. We're on the 6th team in the division, and we're still talking about playoff contenders. But Ottawa, I think, is a great team. Josh Norris, the injury does hurt. Their over-under is 92.5. This is another one that it's like spot on for me. I have them rated at 91, 92, so I guess you'd say I'm taking the under. It's not something I'm going to put my money on, but I think they're going to finish right there. The fact that they have the Sabres and the Senators at the same, I think, kind of shows you both teams are ascending. I think the Sabres have the more elite talent, and I think ultimately that's what's gonna go out here and make the difference. But the Senators, Tim Stützle, 90 points last year. He's going to have take another step forward. Brady Tkachuk continues to be great, a point per game last year. Claude Giroux continuing to do his thing. The question is that depth? Matthew Joseph, Drake Batherson with 62 points, 20 goals last year, another 20 goals for Dominik Kubalik, who continues to be a goal scorer. They have Vladimir Tarasenko, so we'll see if he can, turning back the clock a little bit, because he's been on a downward trajectory, right? You hate an ascending team with a downward player. Where's that intersection really? Does he make the difference, or is he going to continue going down? They're going to lean on him. I don't know. They probably don't have to. With the talent. Defensively, Chikrin with a big trade last year. He played pretty solidly. Jake Sanderson, I believe did he just sign? I think he just signed an extension. He did that massive, 8 years, 8.05. That's a great deal for him, and I think, the blue line for the Senators is going to be solid. Jonas Korpisalo, Anton Forsberg, well, I'm not excited about those goaltenders. I think they can still make the playoffs with those goaltenders. So this will be a fun season for Ottawa. We'll have to really see, what's putting them over the edge. I don't really see that, right? Because every team, especially in this division, has that elite talent. It's where is that game changer coming from, right? Is it the fact that you got a great bottom six? Do you have elite offensive defensemen, or do you have a goalie that's going to steal you 10 games this year, right? Just because he's phenomenal, right? Like a Vasilevsky or a Shesterkin. I don't see that there with the Senators. I have them missing the playoffs barely. I think the Senators remind me of where the Sabres were last year, where they're going to give a lot of teams a tougher fight early on in the season, and then that they're going to miss that cutting edge that gets you into the playoffs this year. So I think it's going to be another fun year for Ottawa, and I think they're going to be a team to watch. Just they're going to miss out ever so slightly. Next, we'll talk about the Detroit Red Wings. Their over/under is 85.5. Again, that's probably where I expect them to be. They've got 86 points in my book, right there, right in that mid to higher 80s. Listen, somebody in this division has to drop points, and I think it's going to be these bottom two teams. I think Detroit's not quite ready. Mo Seider is elite. Dylan Larkin is great. We'll see if DeBrincat can bounce back. I know he had 27 goals last year. 66 points isn't the greatest. Traded from Ottawa to Detroit, signing that extension as well. DeBrincat now with 7.875. So we'll see. They should still be good. I just think that elite talent's not there. They have great talent. I just don't see the elite talent. The goaltending duo has to be better if they're going to do anything this season. Defensively, it's an intriguing bunch with Ben Sherratt, Mo Seider, Petrie, Gostisbehere, Jake Wallman, right? There's names there, and there's some good ones, but again, they feel like a good team, not a great team. And in order to really make the playoffs right now, I feel like in the Eastern Conference, but especially in the Atlantic Division, you need great to elite talent. Maybe I'm sleeping on Dylan Larkin a bit. I know he had 79 points in 80 games, 32 goals. He's still great, but, you need that extra level. You need the Pasternaks, the Matthews, the Matthew Kachucks, Stamkos, Kucherov, Point, right? We all know those guys. I just don't see where it's coming here for Detroit. Again, another team on the rise. I think we're going to have a shift in the Atlantic very, very soon. I have the Sabres making some noise, and then maybe next year the Senators, Red Wings make some noise, along with the Leafs continuing to be great. The Panthers, we'll see how sustainable. I think the Bruins and the Lightning are both teams on the way down. So this should be a very, very interesting division. But with the Detroit Red Wings, the depth's all right. The top talent is good, great, but not elite. So that's where they lose a couple points in my book. And ultimately, obviously, I don't have them making the playoffs because I can only have so many teams from this division in the playoff hunt. Finally, the last team we're going to talk about here is Montreal. The Montreal Canadiens, Slavkovsky is back. Cole Caulfield is back. They're healthy. They should be what we wanted them to be last year. Their over-under right now is 70.5. I'm going to take that over. I think they're probably about a 500 team when it comes to points. Maybe in the high 70s, low 80s if things start to really go right. But I think it'll be a fun year for Montreal. Suzuki, Caulfield, Alex Newhook is here now. Slavkovsky is back. Sean Monahan, right? So there are pieces here to make a better team than they were last year for sure. I just don't see it making too much noise. Again, I think it's one of those, it's a building year. They're going to continue to grow. Cole Caulfield, Slavkovsky, those guys will really, really start to ascend and establish themselves as top talent. The blue line is where I do worry about this team. You look at these names: Michael Matheson, David Savard, Caden Gooley, Jonathan Kovacevic, Arbor Shekai, and Jordan Harris. Honestly, it's not a great blue line to me. Maybe I'm sleeping on them. Michael Matheson did have 34 points in 48 games, but at the end of the day, there's not much here in the way of top end blue liners, right? Pretty much every other team we've talked about in this division has at least one great to elite a blue liner, at least one, right? And that's where I think that the Montreal Canadiens are lacking. You look at the injured reserve and things like that in training camp. There's not much I think that's going to come and save that blue line. Again, I think they're going to be better than the 70.5 points that they're projected to get right now by DraftKings. But how much better in this division, in this conference? I think Montreal, you're making your way up, but there's still a couple years to go before I really feel like Montreal's back in contention. So yeah, I have them over the 70.5, and that concludes the over-under portion of the Atlantic Division. So let's talk about where I've got these standings shaking out. Like I said, I had the over on the Leafs, so I have them at the number 1 in the division. Number 2, I've actually got the Florida Panthers, who are ranked 3rd right now. Number 3, I have the Sabres. Call it a homer take if you will, but I really do feel confident about this Sabres team, and I try not to overhype my team unrealistically. Number 4, I've got the Tampa Bay Lightning. I still think they have enough talent, both forward, blue line, and Vasilevsky's coming back. 5, I have the Bruins. I think they're going to take a major step back. Like I said, I think that everything went perfectly for them last year. This year, I'm not sure that's going to happen, especially without Bergeron and especially without Krejci. Will the goaltenders continue to be as good as they were? We'll see. I don't know if I trust it, which is why I have them here in 5th in the division. In 6th, I've got the Senators. I think they're going to be right on the cusp. Hey, if everything implodes in Boston, maybe Ottawa gets in that spot. And then in the last 2 spots, I've got the Detroit Red Wings and the Canadiens, 2 teams that are still building. I think the Red Wings are closer than the Canadiens, but I think both teams give it a year and a half maybe before we really consider them bona fide playoff contenders. The Red Wings are closer than the Canadiens, obviously. That's factored in by the 15 more points DraftKings is giving them. But again, I don't see exactly where that cutting edge is going to come for them, the Senators, and especially the Canadiens. So I think it may take a little bit, but hopefully we'll see them pretty soon. Next, let's talk about the Metropolitan Division, staying in the Eastern Conference here. And at the very top is the Carolina Hurricanes. They're projected, well, not projected, but DraftKings has their over-under set at 109.5. That's pretty much where I expect the Carolina Hurricanes to be, right in that range. I'll take the over, in my opinion. I think they're 110-ish. 111, right? So again, not one I'm feeling confident about slapping the house down on, but definitely I think the Carolina Hurricanes, they're still going to be great. They're going to get Andrei Svechnikov back early on in the season. I think that they really did miss him last season. They were great last year. I mean, the team analytically was great. Their on-ice performance was great. They pretty much do everything really, really well. The goaltending, we'll see if it can continue to hold up. I mean, Frederik Andersen with a 2.48. Antti Ranta last season had a 2.23. Low 900 save percentage. So we'll see. I think they pretty much have a little bit of everything. Adding Dmitry Orlov too. Michael Bunting, some pretty important acquisitions there to a team that's already got a lot of talent with Sebastian Aho. They've got Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Martin Neckish. I think I always say that name wrong. They still have Jordan Stahl and the gang, Brady Shea, Slavin, Burns, Pesci. I mean, the blue line is again phenomenal for Carolina. I'd be surprised if they weren't in the top couple spots in the conference and in their division. I don't have them winning the division, though. And that's where we'll talk about the next team on the list, is the New Jersey Devils. They're set at 105.5. I'm going to take the over. I think they actually are going to have more wins than the Carolina Hurricanes. Jack Hughes continues his just emergence as an elite talent in this league. Dougie Hamilton continues to be one of the best offensive defensemen. Nico Hischier, Timo Meyer's now here for a full season. Jesper Bratt is the best in the league. It's a really, really good team, and I think they're playing the kind of hockey that you have to this season. We'll see if the goaltending, with Schmid, only played 18 games last year, but was phenomenal. Went 9-5 in those 18 games. I know that doesn't add up, but whatever. It's probably due to mop-up duty and overtime wins and losses. But anyway, a good amount of games played, and the goaltending, we'll see. I think it's still going to be pretty good, though. This is a team that's, really emerging. They've got Andre Palat, Eric Haula. I mean, Mercer, we'll see where he ends up. Alexander Holtz, only played 20 games last year, just about. This year, I think it's going to take another step forward, and it's going to be exciting, I think, for this New Jersey Devil team, who was already near the top of the league last year. I think they're going to be there again, and I think they're going to continue on their trajectory upward, forward, whatever you want to take it. I think they're a really, really good team. Defensively, we'll see if, Kevin Ball, John Marino, Luke Hughes, Brendan Smith, right? We'll see if Luke Hughes can come in and be what he was advertised as. But honestly, guys, I think this Devils team is one to watch. It's going to be fun for them. I think they're young. I think they're fast. And I think they play hockey the way that the league is trending. Not saying that other teams don't, but they're catching that wave at the right time. And I think the Devils are really, really a team to be afraid of when you see them on the schedule. Next up, we'll talk about the New York Rangers. They're projected at 103.5. I'm going to take the over. I think they're going to be in the mid to upper 100s as well. I do think they are the third best team in this division. Obviously, the X factor is Shesterkin. Maybe Patrick Kane comes back. I don't know where he's going to go. He could throw a wrench in all these projections, and we will revisit them midway through the season, and then at the end of the season, watch this video back with you guys and see just how wrong I was about everything. But this Rangers team, I think, is still very, very good. Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, Hedl, Alexis Lafreniere. We'll see if he can finally, be what he was advertised as. Defensively with Ryan Lindgren, Adam Fox. Obviously, that is a nasty pairing. Keandre Miller, Jacob Trouba. I think this is a great team, top to bottom, and they're part of the class of the Metro, right? These are the three teams, right? We know for a fact that these are the three teams that are going to be battling it out. They did it last year. Barring any kind of crazy injury, they should be right there. Did they do enough to overtake the Hurricanes? Maybe they'll be right there with them. The Devils, I think, are a team that's, I do think the Devils are the best team in this division. Call it a hot take. I don't think it is. But, I think these teams, take your pick, a bounce, an injury. We'll see what happens at the end of the season. But I think these three teams are going to be 1, 2, and 3 in the Metro. And I don't think it's that much of a hot take to say that. Next, we've got the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this one's a bit contentious. I might not be pleasing my friends down in Pittsburgh, but 97.5 is the over-under for Pittsburgh this season, and I'll take the under. This is the team, again, that I feel like is clinging on to the last shreds of no, I don't want to call it relevance, but Crosby, obviously at 36, is still elite. Evgeny Malkin, still a great player, but he's 37. Just the roster construction, to me, doesn't scream a team that's, first of all, on the rise. They feel like they're a team on the decline, and, one step slower, one thing like that. We'll see if they can continue to keep it up. I know Tristan Jarry is going to be back. He had a great year. They've got Alex Nedeljkovic as their backup. So the goaltending, it's probably going to be good. And I'm not in any way insinuating that the Penguins are going to be a bad team. I just don't see them near 100 points. I see them more in the mid to low 90s. I have them at 92-ish. So obviously I'm taking that under there. I think Riley Smith, a good addition. Ricard Raquel is solid. It's just this team without Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin. You may look at them a lot differently. And I know I haven't talked about the Erik Karlsson acquisition, and I think he's going to put up great offensive numbers, but I'm just not too sure about, Karlsson, Letang, Graves, Pettersson. Listen, it's a lot of great names, but there's a lot of age there with Letang and Karlsson. I know Karlsson's only 33, but still, I just don't. I don't see Erik Karlsson getting that type of season again. I think he can have a great offensive year again. He's going to be terrible defensively again. We know this. We've all had this conversation on Twitter before. But to see him at over 100 points, I don't think it's going to happen. It's just a team that I think in a very, very tough conference, they're still going to be good. They'll probably be in it. We'll see. I think down the stretch, they end up faltering. I just don't like the depth with Drew O'Connor, Lars Eller, Jensen Harkins, Matt Nieto, Noel Acciari, Jeff Carter. Again, there's age, there's experience. They know how to get it done. But like I said, with the way like the young teams and the exciting young talent is coming in and they're just kind of taking over, I think this is kind of the changing of the guard this year. I think Pittsburgh does end up missing the playoffs. And at that 92, like I said, I think they'll be right in it down the stretch. I have the Bruins making the playoffs at 93, so maybe that's where, my projections or my predictions here will be wrong. But I just don't see it this year for Pittsburgh, although get some shares of their Power Play 1 because that thing is going to be nasty. Next, we've got the New York Islanders, a team that, I don't know, I don't like the way they play hockey, but they get results. Their over-under is set at 92.5. I think they'll be right about there. I think they're a high 80s type team. I'm going to take the under here in this as well. I know it looks like I'm kind of hating on the Metropolitan Division and loving the Atlantic Division. I think that's where it's trending in the conference. I think a lot of the young talent, I think the up-and-coming teams, the teams on the rise, are in the Atlantic. Again, the Devils are a team on the rise. The Rangers and Hurricanes have been here. I think a lot of the talent, the Atlantic was bad for quite a few years thanks to those guys and changing the guard here in the East. I think the Islanders, they made the playoffs last year. Ilya Sorokin will still be great. Semyon Varlamov will still be great. They'll still play terrorist hockey. You'll want to scratch your eyes out when you watch them. They'll still win games and be in the hunt. But I don't think they have that talent to get over the hump. Bo Horvat, he's great. He was having an amazing season last year, though, and I don't think he can repeat that. I don't know if it was just due to high shooting percentage. It might have been, but it felt like he was uncharacteristically getting some goals last year. I mean, yeah, in Vancouver, he had a 21% shooting percentage. That's ridiculous. He was not very good when he got to New York. 30 games played, 16 points, 7 goals. That's not exactly what they got him for. I don't see him being the difference maker for a full season. Matthew Barzal will be healthy, so maybe he'll be a difference maker. I think this team does take a small step back, and that's going to be deadly, especially in this conference. So high 80s, not too crazy different from where they were last year, but I don't think it's enough to make the playoffs. Next up, we have the Washington Capitals, and well, if I was hating on the Penguins for having aging talent and, relying too much on names from the past, I think we can say the same thing about the Capitals. Their over-under is set at 83.5. I really think that's where they're going to finish. I don't want to say over or under. I literally have them at 83, so I guess technically you would say I would take the under. But 83.5, I feel like that's pretty accurate. Darcy Kemper was not great. Charlie Lindgren was not great. This team, they have Rasmus Sandin now. John Carlson will be back. So, they're still going to have the talent, but they feel more of a team falling a lot harder than Pittsburgh, but still falling nonetheless. I don't think this is a team you're really going to have to look out for. Obviously, Ovechkin, we're all rooting for Ovi to break the record, right? We all want to see it because it's in our lifetime. We're watching him. He's the greatest goal scorer that we've watched in the last 20 years. So I want to see him break the record. Hopefully, he continues to score goals for them. But honestly, I don't know where the refresh is coming from for Washington. I mean, you could say Connor McMichael, but is he going to be enough to single-handedly lift this roster back into the playoff contention? I don't think they are going to be there. I think they were a team that, showed us last year that they're still going to be decent, not great. I can say the same thing about them this year. Decent, not great. I have the Capitals missing the playoffs, pretty unsurprisingly, when I have them at 83. Next is the Philadelphia Flyers, a team where I have no idea where they're going. I don't think it's to the playoffs, though. Don't get me wrong. They're over-under set at 75.5. Am I crazy for saying that I want to take the under on that? I think they're going to be in the low 70s. I really do. I think 72 points about for this Philadelphia Flyers team. Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson, yay. Joel Farabee, still good. Ryan Ellis, not going to play again, I don't think. So no reason to look at him. Hopefully, Carter Hart comes back and is Carter Hart, and maybe that's where they get the over here. I just don't see much on this roster that excites me. Rasmus Ristolainen, going for his gold, another green jacket here with all the minuses. Sanheim, Cam York, we'll see if he steps in and is anything. This is just not a team that is refreshing with a lot of exciting talent. Morgan Frost is who he is. Owen Tippett is who he is. Tyson Forster, we'll see how he is. But again, there's no elite talent on this team, in my opinion. Travis Konechny with Scott Lawton and Noah Cates right now is a projected third line. It's fine. It's a team that I have a tough time getting excited about. And I'm sorry, Philly fans, but hey, you can just hang your hat on the Eagles because they're pretty good. And finally, in this division, we'll talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team, well, oh boy. In the headlines for all the wrong reasons, 72.5 is their over-under, and I'm actually going to take the over. I like the talent they've got. I do. I don't think they're going to be a playoff contender. I don't think they're over by a ton. I do think they finish better than the Flyers. Spoiler alert. But I'm really excited to see Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Adam Fantilli. Right now, that's projected to be their third line. And man, if I'm a Blue Jackets fan, I only want to watch shifts from that third line because that's the future. 2018 and 20. Kirill Marchenko on the top line with Laine and Goudreau. Like I said, there's still some talent here to be excited about. Jack Roslovic, Boone Jenner, Alexander Tessier. This is a more exciting team than the Flyers, and I haven't even talked about the blue line yet, right? So, listen, I'm getting excited about them just because of where we expect them to be and what I think they could be. Don't get me wrong, they're over-under set at 72.5. I'm not saying, oh my God, this team's going to get 95 points and shock the world. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think compared to where we think they are and where they could be, I think this is one of the teams that you got to be excited to watch this year with Zach Werenski. He's back. Damon Severson is honestly, I think, a pretty good pickup. They've got Boakfist and Provorov, Jake Bean, Erica Branson, goaltending Elvis Merzlikins and Spencer Martin. Yeah, it's not great, but again, I do think this Blue Jackets team will be a little bit more exciting than a team like the Flyers, and I think it'll be a fun team to watch. So I'm rooting for the Blue Jackets. There's a lot here and a lot of reasons to tune in. They may lose, but you're gonna want to watch for the growth. And I remember that with the Sabres, right? Watching just specifically for individual players to see how they grew. I didn't care if we won or lost. I just wanted to see like Dahlin and Tage and those guys. And like last season, I wanted to watch Quinn and Peterka get grow and develop and watch them do well. Owen Power, same thing. And I think you can have a lot of similarities watching Blue Jackets games this year. So don't expect too many wins, but look out because these players, if they start to develop and grow, I think you could have a lot of fun in Columbus this year. Listen, no expectations. Go out there, do your thing, learn, grow, develop, have some fun this year, Columbus, because I think it'll be a fun year. Not in the win column, though. But that wraps up the Metropolitan Division, so let's take a look at the standings that I have set. Number one, I've got the New Jersey Devils. I think they're going to be right in there with the Hurricanes. Hurricanes then obviously at number 2 and the Rangers at 3. I do think the Rangers are the third team out of these three. But again, I have all three of these guys making the playoffs. Nobody else in this division making the playoffs because I had five teams in the Atlantic making the division again, or making the playoffs. The Penguins versus the Bruins. Take your pick there. I'm going with the Bruins. I think they still got enough. The Penguins, I don't see it there. The Islanders, same thing. I don't see them making the playoffs. Now, with their style of hockey, maybe they could, again, continue to climb into that wild card contention and just grit it out down the stretch. I just don't see it happening for them this year. The Capitals, not a very exciting year down there in 6th. The Blue Jackets in 7th, very exciting. And a good year to be 7th, I guess. And then the Philadelphia Flyers, I have no idea where you guys are going. I think it's going to be the bottom of the Metro, and I think it could be close to the bottom of the East. We'll see. But that wraps up the Eastern Conference. My playoff teams, again, are Leafs, Panthers, Sabres, Lightning, Bruins, Devils, Hurricanes, Rangers. I think that could make a very, very exciting playoffs, and I honestly, I don't know who I see coming out of this. I don't think the Leafs solve their issues. I don't think the Panthers make that run back. I don't think the Sabres, Lightnings, or Bruins, for various reasons, I don't think they're making it out. I'm probably looking at this Metropolitan Division. These teams, the Devils, the Hurricanes, the Rangers, I think any one of those guys. So if I had to pick 4 teams to make it out to the Stanley Cup, would probably be the Leafs, the Devils, Hurricanes, Rangers. I probably am leaning Devils or Hurricanes. Maybe this is the year the Hurricanes put it all together and finally get off their playoff woes. I don't know, but really, I wish I could make a bolder prediction for you guys other than, you know what, I'm going to say it. Hurricanes make it out of the East. I am going to make a bold prediction. There you go. Hurricanes out of the East. Maybe it's not bold, but I at least made a prediction. So there we go. That's the East. Hurricanes come out of it. You guys saw everything. So now let's jump to the West. Making it back over to the Western Conference, we'll start with the Central Division. And at the top of the Central Division, we have a tie. I'll start alphabetically. We'll start with the Colorado Avalanche, projected at 105.5. I'm going to take the over. I don't think it's going to be much over. Just for reference, I put just a point number down. I have 106 written down in my notes. I think that's right about where they'll be. I know it's easy to look at elite talent and say, oh, easy 110, but that's never really how these things shake out. But I see the Avalanche at 106 this season. The Gabriel Landeskog, missing him, I think that's probably where I dock some points, right? He's worth, a few wins just on his leadership alone. So, I'm not trying to say that they don't have leadership with McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, right? They're still a great team. And I think Georgiev can continue to have a great season like he did. I think the system that they play is very entertaining and very forgiving for goaltenders as well. I think it's a great team. Devin Tays, Cal Makar. They still have Sam Girard, Bowen Byram, Josh Manson's here now, Jack Johnson, right? The blue line is still going to be great. I think Miles Wood is a good addition. He's exciting to me. They've got Ross Colton, Thomas Tatar. I think that's a good third line. I haven't really talked about their second line with Arturi Lehkonen, Ryan Johansson, Valerie Nichushkin. I think it's going to be another great team. The Avalanche are going to be talked about as cup contenders again. Probably not as overwhelming favorites as they were when they did win it. But I think this is a great team. There's not much else to say other than the Avalanche will continue to do Avalanche things, continue being near the top. I wish I had some more exciting, takes for you guys here, but what do you want me to say? They finish with under 90 points and they absolutely flame out. That's just not going to happen. This is a great team. They're elite. The talent is still there at the top. I think they still have depth. The blue line is great, and I think the goaltending continues to be great. I think they do end up finishing second in the division, though, which takes us to the other team they are tied with in the Dallas Stars. 105.5 is their projection as well, and I am taking the over on that. Again, obviously I have to because I have them winning the division. I have them just getting to 110. I think it's going to be fun to see Stars, Avs go back and forth. I'm giving the nod to Ottinger and the fact that, I just think that the Stars, they got Duchesne. I think that the Stars, they were right there last year. I think the Avs, I know they were missing Makar and McKinnon for a little bit throughout the year. I think losing Landeskog for the entire year hurts. I think the Stars are a team that, has that talent coming up. Wyatt Johnson, that refresh that I'm saying that some of these other teams don't have. Obviously, Tyler Seguin and Joe Pavelski, right there on their way down in their career. Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, they've been talked about for years as not doing enough. But Jason Robertson continues to hit his peak, 109 points last year, 46 goals. Rupe Hintz, point per game guy, 40 goals, probably last year if he stays healthy. Dadonov, Matt Duchene. I think there is a lot of talent. I think there is a lot of talent here. Oh, by the way, they also have Miro Heiskanen on the blue line, Esa Lindell, Ryan Suter's there. I think it's a really, really good team. I really think they have enough in every area. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. And that's really, when you look at these top teams across every division, right? We talked about the Leafs, we talked about the Panthers, we talked about the Hurricanes, the Rangers, the Devils, now the Avalanche and the Stars. They are all the teams that they just find ways to win. They have that elite talent. They've got that depth. When McKinnon's not scoring, maybe it's somebody on the third line, right? Or Jason Robertson doesn't score. Well, oh, by the way, we got Mason Marchment on the third line, right? Things like that for these Stars and these Avalanche, right? I think that, and ultimately it does come down to the Stars being maybe a bit healthier. I'm seeing a lot of pluses, but at least they don't have too many season-long injuries. Obviously, things could change, but we know Gabriel Landeskog is out, and that's where I'm going to give the slight edge to the Stars. Should be a fun one here at the top of the Central, but I got Stars over Avs, and let's see, that could be bold. Next in the division, we have the Minnesota Wild. They are set at 95.5. I have them over, not too much over. I have them at 97 in my book. I think they're a good team. I think they still have that top talent. You know, Kirill Kaprizov is elite. Matt Zuccarello continues to do his thing, putting up 20 goals, 60, 70 points. Matthew Boldy gets another year in the league. He's 22. Marcus Johansson, Joel Eriksson-Ek. I mean, they're a good team. Marco Rossi is here now. And then on the blue line, they're doing a little bit of a refresh on that blue line. Jonas Brodin, Brock Faber now is here. Jacob Middleton, Goligoski, John Merrill, Kalen Addison, right? Like things are refreshing there on the blue line after, just I don't think they had enough last year. Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury. Gustafsson should be the primary starter is my guess this year. He had the better numbers. I don't think that's sustainable. 931. Don't foresee that happening again. But I still think he can have a great season there. I think they're clearly the third best team. I think there's the Stars and Avs. I think there's a gap. There's the Wild, and I think there's another gap. So the Wild will continue to be a good team. I don't foresee I don't foresee crazy amounts of playoff success in their future, but I think they'll still be a good team, tough to beat. I don't have too much to say about the Wild. They're a team that's like right there, smack dab in the middle, and I'm excited to see what else Kaprizov can do this year. Next, we have the Winnipeg Jets. They're over-under set at 92.5, and this one's an easy one for me. I'm taking the under. I think this is a team primed and ready to sell off at the deadline and get that refresh in, right? They already sent Pierre-Luc Dubois away. Connor Hellebuck's been rumored to be traded a ton. Blake Wheeler's gone. Yes, they still have Kyle Connor. They still have Nikolai Ehlers. They have Cole Perfetti. They've got Nino Niederreiter now. Mark Scheifele's still there, right? It's a team, though, that I don't think they're on the way up, and I don't think they had enough of a high to really consider that they could bounce back to that. I think it's a team that's probably on a downward trajectory, needs to plateau for a year or two, get some assets, and then they'll be back. And it's not going to be a long rebuild per se. I think it's just a retool. Josh Morrissey, Dylan DeMello, the blue line's all right. They need a bit more, right? And where is it coming from? It's some of their guys, the PLD experiment did not work out. He's gone now. And that was one of those guys that maybe if they were going to go on the upward trajectory, like I'm talking about here, I think that would have been the guy. Didn't happen. I don't think that they are a team that's going to be too good this season. Like I said, they're under 92.5. I'm not going to say they're going to crater. I have them in the mid 80s. I think that's one that, when we get closer to the deadline, they'll sell off. They'll sell some of these players. They've got quite a few players here that are on 2-year deals, right? So many 2025s in their list of expiries. Their goaltenders expire this year. It's not an exciting time to be a Jets fan. It could be soon. Maybe they'll bounce back. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'm overlooking something with this team. Winnipeg fans, I'm sorry. Not the season that I think you're going to want to tune in for. Next, we have the Nashville Predators, 86.5 is what DraftKings has, and I'm going to take the exact. I mean, I know teams can't get 86.5 points, but I have them right at that 86 mark, maybe high 80s. Take the over, take the under. I think they're going to be mid to high 80s. I think that's one that's bang on. I think that's absolutely right for where the Predators will be. I mean, Ryan O'Reilly's here now. Philip Forsberg. They did lose Ryan Johansson, though. Roman Josi continues to be here. There's enough talent here, especially with like Saros, Josi, Forsberg. Like, there's enough talent here to still be a decent team. But I just don't see it. It feels like a transition year with Juuso Parssinen, Philip Tomasino, Luke Evangelista, right? It feels like more of a transitional year where those guys will start to get a lot more ice time. Ryan O'Reilly's here. He'll be hopefully a good mentor in the locker room. Philip Forsberg's just towards the end of his prime, right? He's still in it, but I don't think it's enough to carry this team. Roman Josi, 33, will maybe still be... I don't know if he's going to be a Norris candidate, but I think he's still going to be an elite defenseman in the NHL, that's for sure. It's an interesting team. Ryan McDonagh's here now, too. Again, interesting team. Not really expecting them to do big things, great things. I think they're the fourth best team in this division, but it's not a very good division in my eyes. Maybe that's just me not paying attention to the Central or what, but I just don't see it on paper. I think they'll still be an average team, 86 to 90 points, maybe 90 might be a bit of a stretch. I have them, I have written down the under. It's because I have 86 and their over-under is 86.5. So take your pick. Nashville, the days of your blue line with PK Subban and whatnot, man, those were the days. That was fun. I know they've had better seasons other than that, but they made the playoffs, losing to the Penguins, or the Cup, I should say. Nashville, we'll see. Take this year in stride. It's a bit of a transitional year. Maybe next year we could talk about you guys, maybe you make the wild card and you're ahead of schedule. But I think for now, it's one of those where it's just going to need to refresh real quick. Next, we have the St. Louis Blues. They're over-under set at 83.5. And boy, oh boy, I think DraftKings is doing a good job. I have the under, but I have them at 82. So again, same thing like I said with the Predators and the Blues and the Wild and the Avalanche, right? This is the division where I feel like it's pretty easy to predict on paper. Maybe there's not maybe I'm overlooking maybe one key piece. But when it comes to the St. Louis Blues, I like the talent on the first line. I'm okay with the talent on the second line. I don't like the rest of the team. The blue line took a step back. Jordan Binnington is the goaltending situation is not great. And I just don't see it here with the St. Louis Blues team. I think they're, again, like I said, 500. They're average. I think, again, they've got great talent on the first line, good talent on the second line, and then becomes as we start to get a little bit lower through this depth chart. But I like Buchnevich. Jordan Kyrou is great. Robert Thomas, those guys are starting to hit their prime. Surround them with some good talent, not Kevin Hayes and Sammy Blaze and in those guys, right? Then maybe they can start to ascend again. But the defense, the blue line needs some work. And goaltending. Jordan Binnington got the contract, showed us he wasn't him, and wants to fight you for saying that. So low-hanging fruit. I'm sorry. St. Louis Blues fans, I'm sure you've seen that a ton, but hey, I got to take it when it's there. Next, we have the Arizona Coyotes. 79.5 is their over-under. And you know what? I'm taking the over. I think they're going to be a 500 team as well. I think they'll be right there with the Blues. Maybe the Jets. I have those three teams separated by a total of 3 points here in my standings projections. I think the Arizona Coyotes are a fun team. Clayton Keller, and then Logan Cooley. I know I paused. I struggled to find another name, and I was just looking for it on the sheet here. Logan Cooley, I'm so excited to see what he does this year. I think it's a team on the rise. They've got a bunch of players who I think are starting to ascend and find their footing. They got Matt Dumba now, Karel Vejmelka, Connor Ingram. I think that's a pretty decent goaltending tandem. They do need to finally take that step forward and put that faith that I have in them, like, prove me right, please. But I think there is a lot of what I said about the Blue Jackets can be said about the Coyotes, maybe to a little bit lesser of an extent because they don't quite have as many young superstars. But Logan Cooley he's got talent just oozing out of his mitts every time he steps on the ice. Clayton Keller, we know he's great. Nick Schmaltz, 20-goal guy. Same thing with Barrett Hayton. 20-goal guy. Jason Zucker's here now, right? 31, so he's not past it yet by any stretch. And Nick Bukestad, meh, we'll see. Lawson Krause had 24 goals last year. That I did not know. That I just figured out. So, look, I think it's a team that nobody really talks about other than the stadium issues. But I think it's a team that, give it a couple of years. I think Arizona's finally starting to turn a corner. And maybe this is hopium, but I think that maybe this is the year they start to prove people right. That they are a team that's not just wallowing out there in the desert, right? That they are starting to put the pieces together and moving forward. I think they're a team that, they could give some teams trouble, and I think about 500, continue on that path, that trajectory, acquire, some more top-end talent. We'll see. Go just keep killing the draft. Get yourself some of those top guys. Maybe get lucky in the lottery. And Arizona, I'm rooting for them. I really do think that they could be on their way. But I'm really excited to watch Logan Cooley this year. I think that he's going to be a reason that you want to watch Coyotes games. And speaking of reasons to watch, here we are, Chicago. We got to start at Connor Bedard. Obviously, 71.5 is the over-under. I'm taking the over on that. Not by much, but I think Connor Bedard is good enough to be on a team that's in the mid-70s as points. Taylor Hall, we'll see. He's all right. He's really lost that luster from that MVP season in New Jersey. Buffalo, I think Buffalo killed him. I honestly think Buffalo took him in a back room, beat up his legs, and were like, you used to be able to skate. Nope, you're done. But maybe Buffalo sucked the soul out of him. I don't know. It does that to people, apparently. But I think this team should be interesting. I'm not really sure what to say other than I think they're still going to be at the bottom. I think Bedard is going to be must-watch. Lucas Reichel, I think a full season of him. I mean, there's some young, up-and-coming talent, and you're just going to give these guys time to just go do it. Kevin Korchinski, Alex Vlasic, Wyatt Kaiser on the blue line, right? Guys on their ELCs still that, we'll see. Cole Gutman, Lucas Reichel, Connor Bedard, those are the forwards on their ELCs. And you've got still Corey Perry, Nicholas Foligno, right? You've got some of the veterans in the room. Taylor Radish, we'll see. He put up 20 goals last year. Can he take another step forward? He's 25, going right into his prime. This is a team that, hey, you never know. I don't think they're going to make much noise, but again, I think there is reason to be optimistic. It's a pretty quick refresh, and the fact that they won the lottery and got Bedard, I think, is going to accelerate that. I think the moves they made in the offseason, I think those were pretty good to set them up for future success. This season, I don't see it happening. I'm taking the over, but not by much. So, let's talk about the standings we have set here in the Central Division. Like I said, I've got the Stars and the Avalanche as the clear top two. Next, I've got the Wild, and that's it as far as playoff teams out of this division. I have the Predators, then the Jets, Blues, Coyotes, Blackhawks. I think the Coyotes, Blackhawks will be fun to watch. Two teams that should have young talent that is going to ascend and maybe pose a threat in a few years. The Predators, we'll see what they end up doing. If they can hang out in that middle and then retool and then, maybe they can make the playoffs. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Things could go right. UC Saros, Roman Josi, those guys start to just take over games. And then the Jets and the Blues, I just don't see it for those two teams. It's a season that I don't have a lot of expectations for, and I don't have a lot of hope or excitement for them. But it should be an interesting at the top. You do have cup contenders with the Avalanche and the Stars. And at the bottom, you've got teams that I think would be fun to watch. So maybe some reasons to pay attention to the Central, but I think the Pacific Division is probably the better of the two here in the West. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Last but not least, we have the Pacific Division, and we'll start at the top with the Edmonton Oilers, projected to be 106.5 points here. I mean, you guys, there's not much new about the Oilers. They've got McDavid, they've got Draisaitl, they're still going to be great. I say there's not much new because, yes, they made moves. Is it really game-changing moves, though? I don't know. I think they're going to be great again. I think they're going to be at the top of the Pacific again. I think they're going to be battling with Vegas all the way down the stretch. And I think this team, if Jack Campbell can get back to where he was, Stuart Skinner can continue to play like he was. Maybe that's where the difference is made here. Matthias Ekholm, he's now here for a full season. His injury is only day-to-day, which is good news for the Oilers. But McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse. I mean, these guys are supremely talented. This roster has a lot of top-end talent, a lot of skill. Depth, we'll see if those guys can grow into their own. They got Warren Fogle now. Ryan McLeod had 23 points in 57 games last year. So if he does that for a full season, that'll help out that third line for sure. But really, this team lives and dies with McDavid and Draisaitl. Goaltending, Skinner, Campbell, if that duo can replicate what they did last year, Campbell may be taking a step forward. Like I said, this is a team where the expectations are the same. Go win a cup. They're still going to be a top team. They didn't lose enough to make me say, oh, no, they're not going to be in the playoff contention or they'll be a while. No, they're an elite team. We all know it. Let's move on. We've got the Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions, with a points total of 103.5. And I think they're going to be over that. This Vegas team, Eichel, that addition was massive. I mean, I know Sabres fans, blah, 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 blah. Boo them. I don't care, right? It was a good trade for both franchises, and we're both better off because of it. I had to start there. I think he's that elite talent that they needed, and I really think despite the slower start he had last year, he really rounded into form, finished with 66 and 67, 27 goals. I've seen Eichel play. He can do more than that. He doesn't have to because of how deep the team is, and that's where I give the Golden Knights the edge over the Oilers. They've got Jack Eichel. He's not McDavid. He's not Draisaitl. I get it, but they have elite talent, and they have depth. Alex Pietrangelo on the blue line, Shea Theodore, Nicholas Hagg, Braden McNabb, and Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson. Like the goaltending there, we've seen them be good. Can they be great? They were great through stretches, but can they keep it going? I think this team from top to bottom is very deep. It's going to be very hard to beat. And we saw it, right? Vegas has always been one of those teams that's incredibly deep. And it happens with expansion rosters. They miss out on that elite talent because nobody's going to expose that. But they have a team full of second liners. And then, this far into the Golden Knights life cycle, what is this, their 7th season as a franchise? 6 or 7? Wow, that feels crazy to say. But, they've got the elite talent. They've kept the depth, the goaltending's there, right? And they figured it out. So I think Vegas has got a really, really good shot to repeat and to, again, make some noise. Again, health, obviously, Martinez, White Cloud, we'll see, with those guys, their day-to-day, week-to-week. But I think this is a team that is, again, going to make a lot of noise in the Western Conference. Speaking of a team that made some noise in the Western Conference, let's move over to the Los Angeles Kings. And this is a really, really tough one for me to pin down. I'm not really confident about where the Kings are going. I think they're going to be a playoff team. Their over-under is set at 99.5. I'm taking the under. I have them at 97 points. I think they're going to be right in there in a dogfight for third place. I think we've got 2 dogfights in this division. We got Golden Knights Oilers and Kings Kraken. I think that's going to be a big, big battle, just like it was last year. But Quentin Byfield continues to take a step forward in the league here. Anze Kopitar, yes, he's 36. He still can get a job done on both ends. He reminds me of the Bergeron type player where I know he's on his way down, but he's still elite at what he does. They've got Pierre-Luc Dubois now. And I don't know why it took me so long to mention Pierre-Luc Dubois, but is he finally going to click? Is it finally going to happen for him? Is he going to be a game changer like everybody wants him to be? He's got to do it. 27 goals last year. And I think this year, maybe less pressure, maybe less attention because he's in Los Angeles, right? Not in Canada anymore. I think this is another good situation for him. We'll see if he can put it together. And I say put it together. He got paid like he's going to put it together, right? I know he's got back-to-back 60-point seasons, but again, there's expectations there. And I know there's the old saying, expectations minus reality equals disappointment. But I think he can do it. I think this LA Kings team is going to be good. I don't know where they're going to get pushed over the edge. Again, there's a lot of depth. The elite talent, I haven't even talked about the blue line with Doughty, Gavrikov, Michael Anderson there playing with Doughty. Again, I think it's a good team. Where is that elite cutting edge coming from? I'm not saying they're not making the playoffs. I do have them behind our next team, though. And that next team is the Seattle Kraken. 94.5 is their over-under. I'm taking the over. I think they might touch 100 points. I have them at 99. I couldn't get myself to say 100. I think Matty Beniers takes another step and becomes that elite talent. I think these two teams are very comparable when you get the amount of depth, the blue line talent. Goaltending, though, is probably where I'd give the Kings an edge. But again, I'm looking at elite forward talent. I didn't see Byfield, maybe. But we're here to talk about the Kraken. I think Beniers takes another step this year, and I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be just a pure number one center for them. I think this is going to be a good year for the Seattle Kraken. Again, they had 4 second lines, right? Can they get that first line now? Jared McCann, great season, 40 goals. Matty Beniers in his rookie year, 24 and 57 points, right? He takes a step. McCann repeats. I think that's where that elite first line talent comes from, and I think they have the depth and the defense to contend with just about anybody in the playoffs. It's just the goaltending, right? Philip Grubauer, Joey Decord, guys, put it together. Let's see something. Grubauer, you need to do it, buddy. You played 39 games last year. 285, 895 is not going to get it done. Seattle, I think they may have to address goaltending. Hello, Connor Hellebuck? Maybe? I don't know. I don't know if they can fit him in there. I think it'd be really interesting. I think it's kind of move that if they really feel like they can go for it, they should. But will they do it? But I have them over the 94.5. I think they are the third best team, and I think they'll be right with it with the Kings. We'll see. Does that goaltending make a difference? Does the goal scoring talent make a difference? I think this should be fun. I think, like, you know, even if I'm wrong on who's better and who's worse, I think these are going to be 2 fun teams to watch. And it's one thing I'm going to keep an eye on. I know I'm going to go to bed before most of the games, but I'll wake up. I'll watch your guys' highlights. Don't worry. Next up, we have the Calgary Flames, who are set at 95.5. And I know I'd say set this at, we'll do it in order. These 2 teams have been flip-flopping as far as DraftKings is concerned, so I just left them where they were. Flames, 95.5, absolutely smashing that under. This is a team that they still have talent. Jonathan Huberdeau wasn't great. Elias Lindholm is their number 1 center. Not exciting. Nazem Kadri, pretty solid middle 6 center. But Mangiapane, we'll see if he continues to get more ice time. Coronado, we'll see if he can, contribute. But again, I'm not trying to say that the Flames are a bad team. I don't see them being one of those mid to high 90s teams that is going to make a lot of noise and really push for playoff relevance and contention. And they'll probably be in the playoff hunt. But I think, again, when the going gets tough in late February, all of March, winning important games in March is one of the most important skills for a playoff contending team. Trust me, I've watched the Sabres be right there and then completely nosedive in March. And I think the Flames, I don't see it. Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson, they'll be good again. Zadorov and Uyghur. I mean, Uyghur and Huberdeau, they really seem to not do nearly as well out of Florida. And again, Jacob Markstrom, Daniel Vladar, goaltending. Again, you guys are getting paid to be good. Be good. I know it's not that easy, but it's a decent team. I think over 95.5 would be a really, really tough thing with Calgary. I have them under, and I'm going to have them missing the playoffs. And that's because the next team we have to talk about, the Vancouver Canucks, I think are a team that's kind of getting slept on. I really do. They're over-under set at 90.5. I have them over, and I have them in the low 90s, right? So the Flames probably in the low 90s, high 80s. A team that, probably is going to barely miss, and I think that's because the Canucks sneak in ahead of them. Kuzmenko, Pettersson, I think Connor Garland is a guy that never gets enough attention. If a guy is always talked about as never getting enough attention, is he getting enough attention? Anyway, it's like a tree falls in the woods kind of thing. I'm getting sidetracked. They still have Brock Besser, JT Miller. I think Pius Suter is great for that third line. Anthony Beauvillier, as clowned on as Vancouver was when they made that trade, he did kind of outperform Bo Horvat when he went to Vancouver than when Bo Horvat went to the Islanders, right? 20 points in 33 games for the Canucks, 9 goals as well. I mean, you project that out to a full season, you've gotten 50s in points. You've got 20 goals probably. I mean, I'd take that if I were them. And they also acquired Philip Hronik to go with new captain Quinn Hughes on the blue line. I think this is going to be a very interesting team. I think they make the playoffs. I think they're over the 90.5. I don't expect them to make much noise in the playoffs. Thatcher Demko, Casey DeSmith, I think is a solid goaltending tandem. If Thatcher Demko can return to the form that we know Demko can play at, I think it'll be a good team. They've also got Ilya Mikheyev, who is day-to-day after that ACL injury. I think he'll come back. He'll slot in very nicely, but I feel like Andrei Kuzmenko is somebody that I never hear about, but he scored 40 goals last year. So why are we not talking about Andrei Kuzmenko more? Hello? 27-year-old, 40 goals. probably should talk about that guy. And obviously the Pettersson, elite talent. Quinn Hughes, elite talent. I think the Canucks are going to make the playoffs, and I think it'll be interesting for them. And next, we've got the second last team in this division. The over-unders are crazy in this division. Like, we've got six teams at 90 or better. And then we've got 2 teams at 70 or worse. And the first of those 2 is the Anaheim Ducks at 70.5. And I know with the coaching change and the Zegras signing and the Drysdale signing, guys, I still just don't think it's a good team. I don't think that there's enough depth. I don't think the blue line is all that exciting. Ilya Lyubushkin on your middle pairing, Radko Gudas on your third pairing. Like, yikes. I watched Bush. I love Bush. Don't think he's a middle pairing defenseman at all. He may not be playing there, but that's at least what the depth chart says. So that's what I'm going to go off of. John Gibson, are you going to stay around? Is he going to get moved? They do have Lucas Dostal, who they could maybe turn the reins over. Didn't exactly flourish, but tell me what goaltender flourished in Anaheim last year. The defense was horrific, absolutely putrid. And listen, Trevor Zegras, take that step. Become the elite talent. Become the first liner that you are hyped up to be. I know you're flashy with the mitts and everything, but 20 goals, 65 points, I don't know. Troy Terry, to me, is the best forward on this team right now until Trevor Zegras can prove to me otherwise. And I probably will be wrong very quickly, but in my opinion, it's Terry and then Trevor Zegras. Maybe that's a hot take, but also Leo Carlsson is here now. He could help out. I still think this team is not going to go very far, but Mason McTavish, Ryan Strome is a solid pickup. Frank Vetrano, these guys are 40-point guys. We'll see if the offense can take a step forward and a massive leap forward for the defensive side of things. I have them over that 70.5. I think I might have mentioned that or not, but I don't have them much over. I think they might be in the mid to high 70s. If they break 500, great compared to where they were last season, and especially with the expectations and the talent. I think with Trevor Zegras being on ESPN every other day, I'm going to need to see more than a Michigan every once in a while for me to believe that this team is going to go anywhere anytime soon. But I felt kind of harsh. I'm sorry, Anaheim. I was about to move on to San Jose, and I was like, damn, I was a little bit harsh on Anaheim. Nothing against Zegras or you guys. I want to see it. I want to see it on the ice happen and not get absolutely slaughtered. Zegras is great. I want to see. I think he can take that next step. I think he's got the skill. I think he's got the talent. I want to see it happen. So that sounded very, very harsh. Like I just hate the Ducks or something. So apologies, Anaheim, and to Zegras fans across the world. Anyway, we're going to talk about the San Jose Sharks now, the final team in this episode. San Jose, I'm sorry it took me so long to get to you guys, but there's a lot of teams that have a higher points total than you do, and you're also all the way out on the Western Conference, so I'm sorry. But we'll talk about the Sharks. 66.5 is their over-under. I'm going to take the under. I'm sorry. It's 66.5, but just where they were last year with 100 points from Erik Karlsson, and he's gone. Who's coming in? I guess William Eklund's here for the full season. He'll be good. Tomas Hertl, Barabanov. Oh, guys. There's not a lot of talent. And I think right now it's asset acquisition mode. Marc-Edouard Vlasic is on the way out. His $7 million. It's not like the cap is really hindering you guys right now, but really there's a lot of opportunity to refresh this roster very soon. Anthony Duclair is now here. But so many guys expiring in 2024. Barabanov, Mike Hoffman, Luke Kunin, Philip Zadina, Thomas Bordeleau, Anthony Duclair, Kevin Labanc, Ty Emberson, who's apparently your 6th defenseman, and then Capo Kakinen. So there's a lot of opportunity to very soon turn it around. Logan Couture is week to week. He'll be back, which will help a little bit. But honestly, guys, there's just not enough talent. The elite talent really isn't there. I love Tomas Hertl. I think he's great. I don't think he's elite. Same thing there with Logan Couture. It's bleak. It's going to be one of those, just enjoy it as much as you can. Watch William Eklund. Watch Thomas Bordeleau. Watch those younger guys on your roster and see how they do. Don't care about the wins and losses. I don't think the Sharks are shocking the world. I think right now it's just regroup, get the assets, get younger, and then in 2-3 years, make that push, get back to the playoffs, and, we'll see, right? But right now, there's just nothing there for me to really get excited about. And I think that the talent is needed now. Yes, Will Smith this past year was a good pick. We'll see when he comes up, right? So, like I'm saying, it's asset acquisition mode. Don't ruin your young players either. Give them enough around them. Don't put them in bad situations. Just allow them to learn and grow and develop. So the Sharks, I'm sorry, 66.5 is, I think, the lowest set by DraftKings, and I'm still taking the under. Ouch. I'm sorry. But it's just not an exciting season for the Sharks, in my opinion, unless you like misery and pain, then you might be excited about it. Anyway, let's talk about the Pacific. That felt pretty morbid. Man, those last two teams were not exciting for me to talk about, but this division is very exciting to talk about. The Golden Knights, the Oilers are the top two teams. I have the Golden Knights winning the division. I think they just have just enough. I literally have 1 point between the Oilers and Knights. 112 for the Knights, 111 for the Oilers. Kraken, Kings, I like the Kraken a little bit more than I like the Kings. I see the path for the Kraken a little bit clearer than the Kings. Maybe I'm blind. You guys can tell me that too. And then the final team that I have making the playoffs out of this division is the Canucks. So 2 divisions getting 5 teams, but I think that's just the way it is. The Atlantic and the Pacific. It's all about that ocean. It's all about what they put in the water, man. The Flames, the Ducks, and the Sharks rounding out the bottom of this division, and I don't see them really making too much noise. The Flames will probably be the closest from this division to the playoffs, but I feel like they're in the Predators Jets bucket where they'll be all right and they'll peter off All-Star game time, and we'll really have a pretty well defined playoff group. But who's going to be where, I think, is going to be the interesting part in the Western Conference. And now that we're at the Western Conference, we can talk about who's going to make the Stanley Cup. I think, just to refresh everybody, we got the Stars, Avalanche, Wild, Golden Knights, Oilers, Kraken, Kings, Canucks. I don't think the Canucks are making noise. I think they're probably the weakest of all these playoff teams. Kings and Kraken are going to need a lot to go their way. They're in that bucket with the Wild. So I really think there's 4 teams to me. There were 4 in the other one, 4 in this one that can make the Cup. We've got Stars, Avs, Golden Knights, Oilers. Call me boring, but I love storylines. I think this is the year. Again, I love to pick the teams that are finally going to get over the hump. They've been there. They've done it. I think the Oilers do end up getting over the hump and make the Stanley Cup Finals, which means, if you guys remember, it's Oilers Hurricanes Stanley Cup Finals. And I think that'd be really, really exciting. And yeah, so I guess now that I've got my 2 Stanley Cup teams, I owe you guys a projection or a prediction for who's going to win it all. So I've got Hurricanes versus Oilers. That would be, honestly, I think that would be a very, very fun matchup. But I'm gonna go with McDavid. I think McDavid gets his cup. I think this is the year he does it. I think he, in this scenario with the way things shook out, they would have to beat the Kraken in round 1. I like that matchup for them. They'd have to probably beat the Golden Knights, who would probably topple the Canucks in my opinion. So it'd be Oilers, Golden Knights in the second round, and then they'd probably have to get through the Stars or Avs. It'd be really tough, but they would have earned it. And I think they do exercise their demons. I think the Hurricanes do. I think the Oilers do. I think these are 2 teams that just they're built different, right? And I don't mean that like, oh, I'm built different, right? Like the Oilers are built with elite talent, and the Hurricanes have great talent, but everywhere, right? And I think ultimately neither team has that stud goaltender. I mean, you debate Stuart Skinner versus Frederik Andersen. I think they're pretty much in the same bucket, but I think I'd go with McDavid here and Draisaitl, and I think this would be the year for the Oilers. I really do. I think they'll get over the hump. So again, guys, I don't pretend to be the hockey guy. I don't pretend to know everything about every team. I don't pretend to know every little detail, but I hope you guys at least had some fun. Those of you that agree with me, what'd you like? And those of you that disagree with me, what didn't you like? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. Where did I go wrong and where did I get it right? And what do you think about my projections and what are yours? So let me know your thoughts, guys. Hopefully this video was fun and entertaining for you guys, just getting my thoughts. It was kind of a thought dump, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see some more, and I will see you guys in the next one.
It's a free-for-all before we fall. It's a free-for-all before we fall.